Washington, D.C. is preparing for a large-scale military parade on Saturday, June 14, to mark the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army and celebrate President Donald Trump's 79th birthday. The event, expected to cost up to $45 million, will feature over 7,000 soldiers, tanks, military vehicles, flyovers, marching bands, and fireworks taking place around the National Mall starting at 6 p.m. local time. While Trump promises an unforgettable show of strength, nationwide protests organized by the No Kings movement are planned in over 1,500 cities in opposition to what they call government corruption and authoritarianism. These demonstrations, led by the 5501 movement, aim to counter the military display with what they describe as a grassroots show of real power across all 50 states. A black box has been discovered from the site of the Air India crash in Ahmedabad just 28 hours after the disaster, marking a major step in the investigation. The crash, which occurred less than a minute after takeoff, killed 241 of the 242 people on board, including 8 people on the ground. Only one passenger, British national Vishwash Kumar Ramesh, survived and is currently recovering in hospital. The cause of the crash is still unknown, but both US and UK teams are assisting India's Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau. The plane, a Boeing 7878 Dreamliner, crashed into a residential area, causing widespread destruction and killing medical students and relatives of doctors in the area. Identifications of victims is ongoing, mostly through DNA. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Air India's CEO have visited the site. In response, India's aviation regulator has ordered extra safety checks on similar aircraft. A man suspected of murdering 2 Scottish crime figures in a Spanish bar has been arrested in Liverpool under an international warrant. Ross Monaghan and Eddie Lyons Jr. were shot dead on May 31st while watching the Champions League final at Monaghan's bar in Fuengirola, Spain. Both men were associated with the Lyons crime family, which has a long-standing feud with the rivals Daniels clan. CCTV footage showed the attacker chasing and shooting Monaghan inside the bar, while Lyons was fatally shot outside. Though the victims had gang ties, authorities say there is no evidence linking the shooting to ongoing feuds in Scotland or suggesting it was planned there. Spanish and Scottish people are cooperating on the investigation. Under President Trump's second term, the US has drastically reduced its aid and military presence in Africa, shifting the burden of counter-terrorism to local armies despite their limited resources. General Michael Langley, head of US Africa Command, AFRICOM, has emphasized that African nations must now take on more responsibility for their own defense, even as jihadist threats in Sahel. While Langley acknowledges the importance of development and governance in countering instability, US policy has turned inward, prioritizing homeland security and reducing military and development engagement on the continent. American military bases, aid agencies like USAID have been shut down, and US strategy is now focused narrowly on military strikes and private investment. Critics argue this approach ignores the root cause of conflict, such as poverty and environmental pressures, potentially creating greater long-term instability in regions already vulnerable to jihadist influence. And that is all from the global scenes. Harmony Agbafo reporting for BTV News.